Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Self-Love Series. And today I have a wonderful guest on, and I can't wait to introduce you to him. But for now, I just want to go over a little bit about how I created this series. I created this series out of a way for people and community to hear from other voices about what self-love means to them, and also to share particular tools that help them as well. So I'm just going to get Patrick on here. Let me invite him in.
Hey,
Am I in?
you're in.
Awesome.
This happens. Lovely to see you.
You too. So I was crooked and you couldn't hear me. Or I
Yeah.
couldn't too.
So let me just gently introduce you, and then I'll let you take it from here. But it's Patrick is actually my second cousin, and we just recently, I said this last time when I was on his awesome podcast called Illuminate as a guest, and I was like, oh my God, I held you when you were a baby. So I know you're probably sick of hearing that, but I think it's kind of it's a fun thing, because here we are as adults, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and we're in similar fields and have similar passions, and we have lots of high vibe chats that we've just started to kind of have. And anyway, I thought of you as a guest today, and thank you for joining us and for being on. And let me just put this up a little bit. Okay. And so basically let's hear from you. So where are you tuning in from? Tell us a little bit about what it is you're enjoying right now in life and doing, and tell us a little bit about your background in health and wellness.
Yeah, so right now I'm tuning in from Cranston, Rhode Island, in my messy living room because I'm in the middle of moving actually to Portland, Oregon. I got into school there to be a chiropractor. So I'll be in school there for like 2.5 years, and then I'll transfer to a school in Chicago where I'll do another degree in naturopathy and acupuncture. So that was, it's exciting stuff. It's awesome. It's a lot right now, like moving and like hopping around and getting ready for this like 3,000-mile drive. But it's a lot. But I think from like our conversation on the podcast, and just like a lot of like self-love stuff and stuff that I've learned has really been helping keeping me as grounded as I possibly can to this process. So
Great.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, because that's a lot of that's a lot of uprooting and rerouting, and then you're diving into this whole new like landscape of learning to then bring that into your life and career. And that's a lot, but how cool.
Yeah, it's exciting at the same time, like there are factors of it that are like pretty daunting, of course, like the drive and the what ifs, but I try to be like as optimistic as possible, so.
Yeah. Aw. Well, congrats to you, and I can't wait to hear about your adventures while you're in school. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot.
To be proud of. Tell us a little bit about what self-love means to you. So every time I have a guest on, I usually will say, what does self-love mean to you? Right? And you had a little bit of a prompt before that to like kind of digest and think about it. But it's big, it's vast, and everyone has had something very different to share. And it means something very kind of very personal, and also just you can kind of share with that whatever you'd like. But what does self-love, when you hear that, mean to you?
Yeah, so I think it is very vast, and it is a very like interpersonal thing. And I think for me, I've learned that like self-love is like figuring out like who I am as a person. Like figure out like what works for you and like what you're like unique at, and being like explorative, if that makes any sense. Not like in a way of traveling, but figuring out your likes, your passions, your desires, figuring out your body, and like not in like a physical sense too, emotional, spiritual, and physical. So once you do that, you can figure out sort of like why you're here and what you enjoy while you're here. And that's what it is to me.
You enjoy while you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, figuring out who you are, because I think so many of us don't, or we see like a lot of people not being able to like experiencing that, like working a job that they don't enjoy, or doing like an exercise routine that they don't enjoy, or a diet they don't enjoy. And it's because they're not trying these unique things. So many people think like doing cardio is going on an elliptical or going for a run, and like that's because they haven't tried a fun form of it yet, like soccer or basketball or something. So I think just trying so many different things and figuring out what you like to do while you're here
Yeah.
is like the highest form of self-love. Figuring out who you are and what your body likes. That
Yeah.
is,
Foods you eat and like exercise, and like if you're like, oh, I gotta get this cardio in, it's like, oh, you know, that's like adding this kind of angst is what you're saying to
yeah,
like
do it.
the thing you're doing, rather than, oh, I love this. What a beautiful day. I get to be outside. I'm gonna move my body, like that mindset shift.
Yeah, and even further than exercise, it could be like a diet. Like someone heard a diet from a friend where they've lost like 50 pounds, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna try this, but they hate every single food on the diet list. There's so many different fruits and vegetables and meat alternatives and superfoods out there that you just need to try it all and find exactly what works for you. So just getting to know yourself really, and then riding your own wave. Don't try and ride someone else's wave, ride yours, find what works for you. And that's like the highest form, is like figuring out who you are, I think.
Yeah. And then back to how you started the chat with like exploring. Like, how do you know? You got to like get your hands in there and like try things, and you'll know. And then you'll realize what's really fulfilling to you.
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
Cool. Well, I love that. I love that perspective. Yeah, so what particularly for you, when you think of self-love, like what do you think has helped you personally the most with exploring, like what you've explored, like what's made you that's something that makes me really love Pat.
So something that I'm like huge on is some form of like morning routine. I feel like how you start your day can like really it can snowball in like one or two directions, you know, like you get out of bed, like you stub your toe, and you get toothpaste on your shirt. It's it might not be a good day after that, you know. So I think finding and like through my own research, I've done like a lot of research on like morning routines and like things to do in the morning to get yourself started, get your body right. And yeah, for me that's been huge, is like doing research on good ways to start my day, and like in emotional sense, physical, spiritual. So I think we've spoke about like Ayurvedic practices, or I believe on our podcast. So, and like this is like exploratory too. So I took something from an Ayurvedic practice of like when you get up in the morning, do like a oil pulling and tongue scraping.
Yeah.
And it's not like I follow Ayurvedic practices to a T. It's sort of like that was something that was super interesting to me inside of it that I took for myself. So to get up in the morning and the first thing I do is to do oil pulling and then to do some tongue scraping, just knowing that I'm like ridding my body of toxins and stuff like that is an amazing feeling. Like that's like the highest form of self-love, is like ridding toxins from this toxic environment, you know?
Yes, agree. And I'm obsessed with my tongue scraper. Tongue scrape, I'm like, this is a terrible day. Like I can tell already that like there's something missing, because you create this form as a habit, right? You're doing oil pulling. And oil pulling, are you referring to like coconut oil and swishing for a while? Yeah. And then how long do you do that for?
So they say like between like 5 and 15 minutes, but after like 5 minutes, like my jaw hurts a lot. So
yeah. And then like, I love tongue scraping. I do it like, and I always do it in threes, right? It's a very tantric number, but like just and then once I do that, I'm like, it's like a whole ridding. And I like what you said too, with like ridding your body of toxins is like the ultimate form of self-love. Like, because then we're not like blocked. We can feel and see, and our lenses of perception are even sharper.
Exactly.
has been cleansed. And that, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no one's brought that up yet about the tongue scraping and the oil pulling. I love that.
Yeah.
But Robbie a few weeks ago too mentioned like morning routine. He's like, get up, make my bed. And it's like there's something about like how are we starting the day? You know, like
Yeah, for sure.
waking up with intention and that form of self-love. So great. So oil pulling, tongue scraping, what else you got that helps you?
Definitely. I mean, besides that, drinking water and like we've talked about this, just hydrating, you know, and fasting for me is anything that is I view as like health beneficial or like spiritual or physical. It's like it's just such a good feeling to do. So in the morning, like I'll do the oil pulling, tongue scraping. I'll drink like a good amount of water. I'll fast until like 11 or 12 o'clock, and then I'll break my fast with something healthy. And it's just, you just can't put words on how good you feel when you stick to that routine, you know?
Yes. Right. So we've got routine and a structure. There's what I'm doing as like themes and like same thing. I'm on the same fasting schedule, like 11:30, 12, sometimes 12:30. It depends on the day goes, but I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to start to like eat now and like eat within that window.
Yeah.
But that routine I've been doing personally for a little over a year now, about 5 days out of the 7 days of the week. It depends.
Yeah.
And yeah, that routine, it works for me. I've noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think a great thing to mention too is like what happens when you're out of your routine. It doesn't mean that like you're not performing self-love. So because right now for me, I'm in the middle of moving, all my stuff's packed up, I'm like doing more, I'm hungry like at different times and stuff, so I'm not exactly following that to a T. And it can, like, once you fall off that, you're sort of like damn, like what the hell am I doing? So I think like another a great form of self-love is just telling yourself that if you're doing your absolute best, you know, and you do what you can.
Yeah, I love that because you're right. Like we can't always be like, oh, my morning routine was just amazing today.
It doesn't work out like that, you know. You can't.
Some days, yeah, we have interruptions and like life and who knows, and or road trip. I mean, road trips are tough to stick to like your like routine. It's like gas stations and like chips and there's stress. So like you're gonna gravitate. Or I think the last time we spoke on your podcast, it was just after Christmas, maybe. Time is flying, but I remember being like, oh my God, like fudge, cookies, and then being like, all right, I'll get back on track, and how that's a form of like not being so harsh on yourself and being like, okay, you took a little road trip over here, so what? Like you're gonna just come back when you need to find that balance again, and maybe being off track was part of the balance too, you know?
Into place or something like that. I try and find like little hacks because right now I'm not in the gym as much, so I ordered brand new resistance bands because I mean you can pack these things anywhere, and like in like the middle of moving, I'll get in like a set or just something because I figure we're so oftentimes like what'll happen to me in the past, if I didn't start my day right, then I would think that I shouldn't do the rest of my day right, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like if I wake up and I miss my routine, there's like a part of us that's like, well, if my day didn't start right, then the rest of my day it probably isn't gonna go well. So I think it's just always coming back to that center and your baseline and just being like, no, like I can get it back. Like if I ate a shitty breakfast, that doesn't mean that my lunch and my snacks and my dinner have to be shitty as well. I can actually reel it back in, you know? So
right, yeah, like and that baseline, I think we talked about this too on the podcast, was just like that baseline is there and it's an anchor, and when you go off, it's okay, you've got your tools around you to come back and then like just begin again and again. And yeah, I mean, my partner went to the grocery store the other day and he goes, I got you a treat, and it was gummy worms, and I'm like, ah, but you know, I keep them in the fridge and I pick out a few, but you know, instead of being like, oh no, I screwed up the whole day, it's like, no, like I'm living, like just eat the gummy bear, and it's like once in a while, like you gotta do that. And yeah, I think if I was like harshly like, oh no, like I screwed it all up, like that's not really being loving. It's like
exactly. Have to realize that human and
like our self-talk and how we just speak to ourselves in our heads and what rules we make for ourselves. It's just, yeah, this is great stuff. And
Yeah,
people need to, yeah, I think it's just an important topic to just be talking about, like how are we loving ourselves?
I
And
needed this. Like a lot of people view us in this like fitness, health, and wellness industry that like we always have it together, and we don't. Like we're trying our best too, and we have our days. And for me, I tried, and for everyone like listening, I try and realize too that like the decisions that I make like 10 or 20% of the time don't define who I am. Because like 80% of the time, I'm always on point. I'm I'm doing my thing. And then when we slip up that at 10 or 20%, we sometimes get like in the dumps about like, damn, like I messed up. Is this who I am? And it's like, no, it's not. It's not who you are. Like you're not eating gummies all the time. You're not slacking all the time. So don't be so hard on yourself because it's not really who you are when you slip up.
exactly. That's so wise. Because yeah, people are like, I need to stick to this diet and it's gonna be like this every day, and I've got to do this. And it's like that's like hard, that's like a hard quality to bring to like living well and living like free and happy, not happy all the time, but free. That this, and I'm gonna enjoy this and I'm gonna stick to this plan or whatever. But yeah, yeah, it's good. I think you froze for a little bit here.
Oh, you froze too. No.
Oh, you're back. You're back. Back. So yeah, so do you have anything that you like a practice particularly that you want to share with us today, or just
Um, I, I don't think I do anything in particular. I mainly try and just start my day off right.
yeah, so
With the,
just morning routines, getting that down. How would you explain how to say someone is listening right now and they don't have a morning routine or how to start one? What would you recommend they do? Would they like get a pen out and start to write some things down, or how would you kind of help someone formulate like
that
a
will be,
morning
yeah.
start?
I'm actually working on this like habit coaching package right now that has a lot to do with like journaling, and
Cool.
it's like a 14-day thing of yeah, that's funny like that you mentioned it because I feel like implementing like one habit at a time, and I think people view a habit as something that they don't necessarily want to do, but it can be something that like you enjoy doing, like even if it's I want to drink more water, and just
Yeah.
and even just like journaling that down, and then every morning try and drink like a little bit, because so many people they go to someone and they're like, you have to be drinking a gallon of water a day, and this person's barely even drinking like 60
And
fluid ounces, so to implement a gallon is going to be pretty ridiculous, so you have to
it does seem like this mountain that people can't really climb. It's like, oh,
it,
forget it.
it should
Yeah.
be. So if anything, I'll tell anyone, if you want to start your day right, find something that you think you want to do, something that you heard from someone that pulled you, that like ooh feeling. Wow, it's like I think I would actually enjoy that, and just don't go gung ho with it. Implement it like a few days a week, or just a small fraction of it, and see how it makes you feel, and then just take it from there. Build a love for it, because if you try and force anything upon yourself, you're not going to get that freedom sense from it. So I would
I
definitely,
love that. It's down. Build a love for it. That's really wise and important, because if we're
yeah,
not loving it and enjoying it, knowing what it can do for us, then we're like, oh, I have to do this. And it's like that have to, should have mentality, where it's like, I keep a glass of water by my bed, and I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah. And I try to drink all that. And I'm loving that routine, because I notice the rest of my day like fluidly moves, and I'm peeing a little bit more, and I don't feel like heavy and gunked up. And it actually, I don't know if this happens to you, but speaking of the water, but I'll I'll drink that glass first thing, and I notice I crave more of it later. Does that happen to you?
yes,
Where I'm like, oh, I like crave water more because I started my day with it, rather than, oh, I'm like really thirsty right now. It's like an interesting,
it is. Yeah, that's funny that you said that, because I realized that too.
cool.
And then if I'm not drinking water, I don't really like, if I'm slacking, I don't really think about it as much. I don't know, it's weird. I think it's that like one other type
And
of.
then I feel like grumpier and kind of like, ugh, and I'm like, oh, right, I haven't been drinking enough water. Or I'll notice, like when I go to the bathroom, I'm like, oh, what's going on? Usually it's so like,
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not like acid.
it's so regular. And I'm like, oh, right, like I'm not probably hydrated enough. Like
Yeah.
drink water. It's such an amazing thing that can like heal a lot of our problems. Not even, right? Like not even just like feeling better like in our body, but like our emotions. I notice that I'm like way more level-headed when I'm just hydrated, and my emotions seem more like manageable than like wee. But and water,
Yeah, we have to do something for ourselves. I'm a firm believer that first thing in the morning, just try and implement something, some form of routine, even if it's that simple, just getting up and just putting a glass of water in your system to just jumpstart your system in your digestive tract, and even like you said, it can help with your emotions and stuff. Yeah, so just do something for yourself in the morning that'll
Yeah.
help jumpstart your day.
What else do you do like that? It's pretty much every day, like in the morning, where you're like, I do this, and I'm like, my mind is set, like my body feels good. Can you think of anything like?
Yeah, so while I'm fasting, I'll do yeah, I love drinking like organic black coffee, like organic tea. That like really makes me feel like so sharp when I'm fasting. That's an amazing. Yeah, see, that's like it's like people there's such this like stigma on like breakfast being like the most important meal of the day, and like promotions on cereal and all this stuff, and I always felt like doo-doo when I was like eating carbs first thing in the morning and bagels
Yeah.
and pastries, and essentially like we're starving our, yeah, as people call it, like you're starving yourself. No, like no, I'm not. I feel so much better
Me
when I
too.
don't eat and I drink water and I just drink organic black coffee or organic tea. Like your mental clarity and your focus is just through the roof. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then like when it is my, like I call it my eating window, when I'm not like, "Ugh, I can't wait to eat." It's like now that's this routine where I'm just like, oh, like I'm real. And then I'm more satiated by what I'm putting in my body. I
Absolutely.
know because of the fasting, it's like, oh God. And I feel like I'm just absorbing it more or something. And then when I go into my next meal or snack, I'm picking something more consciously than just noshing on chips, which, oh my God, I love noshing on chips. But it's like, oh, like I'm really craving this apple or this side salad or this avocado. And it's like, and yeah, I noticed it just helps me with portions more too. But I mean, yeah, I feel like we both can speak for that, and like it's really helped us. And I think it could help a lot of other people. It does take time to get used to, and it is not for everyone, but
Exactly.
there's so many benefits and amazing stuff as you've done with researching too. And I have fun with it.
Oh yeah, it's
But
amazing. Yeah, it makes food. It gives me like a different appreciation for food as I'm eating it too.
yeah, yeah. And it took me a little bit to get used to. I always tell people like give yourself time, be patient, like because it's tough to figure out your windows too. Like I love the like 12 o'clock, 8 o'clock thing where like that'll eat between then or whatever. Or sometimes it's 1 and 9. And the other day I was super busy and didn't actually, this was not good, but it's okay. I loved myself through it. I
Exactly.
would I was like, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock. And I was like, I'm like 3 hours past my when I was supposed to eat something, but I noticed that night, I was like, oh, it's like 9:30. I'm really hungry still. And instead of beating myself up, I'm like, well, I started at 3. I'm probably need more calories. So I just had a few extra snacks, went to bed, and felt really level the next day.
Mhm.
So it's just that was an interesting thing. But I was like, just one of those days. It just was crept up on me. But yeah, I love the thing that you said too about like tea. What kind of tea do you like?
I use this like organic jasmine. It's like these little like Dragon Ball type things. It's amazing.
Ah,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'll show you them. It's so good. I love it.
I'm like super into rooibos tea with
Yeah,
little oat milk and raw honey. It's like,
yeah. Oh, always.
I haven't had a cup of regular coffee since October, so I haven't had like any caffeinated drinks since then. But I love the organic caffeine-free teas, which I never thought that I would like love that routine. But again, I built the love for it,
Exactly.
right? So
It's an
and
acquired taste. Like when I first drank tea without sugar or a black coffee, I was like, this is absolutely vile. Who would ever, like, this is putrid. I was like, who could ever do this? And then you just do it.
Putrid. I haven't heard that word in a while. Putrid.
Yeah, it was so bad. I was like, this is like battery acid. And then eventually I was like, it's like an acquired, it's like beer. Like, no one likes
Yeah.
and you drink it enough and you're like, wow, this is actually kind of good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, same thing with black acquired taste.
Wow. Cool. So we have a few minutes left. So how can people get in touch with you, or tell us where people can follow you? And I'll obviously tag you and all of that. But like, tell us about your website and
Yeah,
a
so
new project, how they can find the 14-day.
yeah, so I'm actually implementing that on my website soon, along with some recipe books as well. So yeah, I've been working on that. So yeah, it's all good things. And my website is the number one, so One Life FHW, which stands for Fitness, Health, and Wellness. So One Life FHW.com. My Instagram is Pat1Kane8. Pretty much.
And if you go to your Instagram too, they're going to be able to find your website through your Instagram and everything.
Exactly. Yeah, my website has everything, and on there I have like coaching packages, and I'll be implementing a lot of good stuff on there. I actually have a diet and wellness plan on my website that's called Happy Life, where I actually did like a lot of like research studies on like foods that boost serotonin and stuff like that. And and I did like a diet plan and a workout plan, basically for being happy. It's the coolest thing. I love it. So that's hand in hand with this. Yeah, I'll just send it to you. I'll give you a sample that you can look at. It's pretty amazing. So
all right. Yeah, and I think people would really enjoy that. So I'm so glad that you spoke about that, because people can now go and check that out. And then your Illuminate podcast that is on a bunch of channels: YouTube, Illuminate.
Yep.
And you've got that logo behind you there. Yep. And you can check that out on Spotify, YouTube,
yep, Apple Podcasts.
Apple
I haven't
Podcast.
put one out the past 2 weeks because I had midterms, and then I'm moving this week. So
Yeah.
I try and be consistent with the content, but it can't work out that way, you know. So as you know.
And you built it for the love of it. So it's just going to go when it goes. And there's beautiful entries you already have that people can watch, and then they'll be notified when you put something up again if they subscribe. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. This has been really fun. And thanks for sharing so much today with us. And good luck with packing and moving. And I can't wait to hear about your adventures out in Oregon.
I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.